Pierce Morgan. You're my cousin. Okay, well, say your name. I don't think I have a cousin named Nikki. She was a model as a teenager. She was 5'9", and they wanted her to be 117 pounds. She smoked 2 packs of cigs a day and drank black coffee and apples for years. Yeah. Yeah, I can't do that. Like, I love food. I'm just getting to the point where I can cut sugar. Abs are visible at 18%. I think I'm getting close to abs.
Believe that the vast majority of people are a product of their environment. And if Nick Fuentes, through his own story about his parents there, and particularly his father, if he grew up in an environment of overt racism, with his father saying, I'm not taking you to certain restaurants because they're associated with black fare, then you can begin to understand why he himself has become overtly racist.
We're so over people psychoanalyzing is for women. Psychoanalyzing, that's for women to do. Thank you to the new member. I appreciate it.
And indeed is proud of it. So to me, it was a very relevant question. But again, it can't be an ambush if all I'm doing is asking him about a story he himself put in the public domain.
Well, he did introduce it into the public domain with great fanfare and having a great time doing it. Look, the most powerful role model in any child's life is the same-sex parent. They write on the slate of who their children are, and they start doing that from a very early age. And they write on the slate emotionally, socially, in terms of values, thinking process. So you're quite right to bring that up. If you want to know who someone is, you need to look at from whence they came. And that doesn't mean they don't have a chance to alter that when they get other worldviews, but certainly that's a relevant subject matter that he introduced. He just introduced it when no one was calling him out or questioning him about it.
That's a boomer thing, and you can tell these men are run by women. You know, it's funny. It came out that Pierce's wife like totally embarrassed him online. Like she was joking about banging other men, all this like crazy stuff. And I could have told you that because it's like the mindset they have where they think, you know, you need to push back. Okay. Doug MPA is telling me to go. He's saying Dr. Phil is dry. So I agree. Thank you, Doug MPA. I was thinking I should have asked you before the show, but I was just feeling a little bit better. And I'm like, do you know what? I think I gaslit them for like 4 hours yesterday and the day before that I was coming on. I'm like, you guys deserve an apology, you know.
Conducted the interview was fantastic. I watched the entire thing, and you I think were
and so you see he's got the high tonality in his voice. I don't know. Do men raised by women? Is that what that's from?
The only interviewer so far to really hold Nick Fuentes accountable and not let him get away with a lot of his hateful views. I love how you played the clips side by side and made him defend it on the record. So I want to give props to you there. I thought it was really well done. And I watched the entire thing. And I was trying to decide, similar to you, does Nick Fuentes actually believe these things, or is he doing it for the money? Is it performative? And I might disagree slightly with you. I think it's both. I think he does believe some of these things, and I think some of it's performative. I think when he tried to moderate himself, that's performative. But the more hateful views that, as you mentioned, when the mask kind of slipped, that's what he truly believes. You could tell that he was trying to moderate himself when, as you were talking about with Dr. Phil, talking about the Holocaust. He said, oh, I believe it was the Holocaust, at least 6 million Jews. He said that, but then simultaneously claimed that Hitler is cool and that he liked his uniforms and the music and things like that. So
I have a good head on my shoulder. Not that good, I'll tell you. I've been humbled recently. This head is it's more nutty than I thought.
I mean, I think Nick Fuentes broadly is a sad, insecure man. I think he's a liar. I think he's a grifter. And I think you exposed that in the interview.
Andrew Wilson, what did you think?
Well, I was just watching your previous segment, and I thought that the framing there was a little off. So I've always appreciated coming on the show and you letting me get my viewpoints out. But I do take some issue with your framing. You did bring up the guy's dad, and you said his name.
Yeah.
And when you said it on the air that way, this is a person who has had people attempt to assassinate him. They have come to his house, shown up at his door, and tried to kill him. And that's on video happening. And so when you said the guy's name and then try to tie it into racism, I know that you know this, Piers, but the left broadly will do these harassment campaigns. These harassment campaigns are designed specifically to incite the violence of many of their mentally ill followers.
Andrew, let me just say,
that's what they do.
Yeah, let me just say, if I had my time again, I wouldn't have said his father's name, but I would have still told the anecdote.
Yeah, but here's the thing. That's what women do. Women look at whatever you say and try to use it against you in bad faith. It's a female tactic. So when you have men that have the minds of women, it's like they're basically women. I know the simping is insane. You guys got to stop. This is getting ridiculous. Go slide into a redhead that can bang you's DMs. Not me. Not me. But, I think people are saying I look good because I've been starving myself for 3 days. I felt so sick. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm like, yeah, men want what they want, which is thin women. So
because I thought it was really important to Nick Fuentes.
The anecdote's not the relevant part.
But the anecdote is relevant.
Yeah.
The anecdote is relevant when he immediately tried to attack me for ambushing him with a story that he told himself on his show. I mean, look, if I told a story like that...
That's not what people are upset about.
No, I understand.
They weren't upset about the anecdote. They were upset that you specifically said the guy's name after Fuentes has had these assassination attempts on him.
To be clear, if I had my time again, wouldn't have said his father's name, notwithstanding the fact you can find it in 2 seconds on the internet. Right? So it's not like it's not difficult to find. But I do think it's important that anecdote, to me, was...
Yeah, it's just like... Who hurt you, right? I actually was really close to doing light brown hair. I almost went brunette. How much more? I mean, you should have been here in the beginning. At least 8 pounds. Then I'm going to see if I can lose another 10 after that. But I'm happy. If I get to if I lose this next 8 pounds, I'm a happy camper. That would be my goal. That's my goal.
Potentially very relevant to why Nick Fuentes is the way he is about racism, for example, because he was telling a story that cannot be construed, Andrew, any other.
Take better care of yourself, bro. We need a based woman to show good morality. I'm a woman. I can't have good morality. We got to start there. I'd choose Pearl over a hot IG model. You guys say that as a compliment, but do you understand the insinuation? Like, what if I said, "Oh, I'd take you over a hot guy"? You'd be like, "Hey," What if I said, "You know what? I'd take you over a gym muscle guy"? I mean, you'd kind of be like, "Thanks, I guess." Carnivore, I'm kind of close to carnivore right now. We'll see how long I can keep it.
Away, then his father was directing them away from restaurants because of his racist views about the people that go in them or run them. And it couldn't be seen any other way.
I get that. I get the point of bringing the anecdote up. But that wasn't what looked to me like what was making these guys so angry. Was not the anecdote itself, but the fact that you said the guy's name, referenced it as his dad, and then this guy's had assassination attempts.
Yeah, but the story was him telling the story.
By the way, hang on. And a lot of the first assassination attempt happened because of the "Your Body, My Choice" thing that he put that tweet out, and people began doxing his address and his family's name, and that's why they showed up to kill him. So the guy's grievance there, I think, is legitimate.
Yeah, but I think it's important that his grievance wasn't just that I named his father, which again is a matter of public record. You can find it anywhere. Although I wouldn't have said it if I had my time again. because I don't want to attack his family for the sake of attacking his family. It was when he tried to frame it as an unfair attack on his family, when I think actually the story that he himself put in the public domain was potentially very relevant to why he is the way he is. I as a journalist,
well, how he was framing it was you're bringing this up and name doxing specifically so that you can rally people into a harassment campaign. That's how he saw it.
No, but that wasn't. Yeah, okay. But just to be clear again, that was not my intention. My intention was to ask him in all sincerity.
That's like a female thing. Men care about the results. Women care about the intention.
If you grow up in an environment at home where there is clear racism that you have discussed yourself on your own show, very like unarguably, you can't listen to the clip. I played it earlier without realizing that's what he's saying. Then, is that relevant to the way he is? We bring in Mark Lamont Hill here. I mean, Mark, I didn't do that lightly. I had decided before I did the interview that I would do a lot of research into this. I would find all the clips that I felt were the most incendiary things he'd said on the record, and I would ask him and push him about them in a way that I don't think anyone else has really done. And it would be interesting to see the way he responded. And, if you're going to
Yeah, but that's not a good faith interview. It's like, you're just looking for all the bad things he said. Like, who wants to have a conversation with someone that says, this is every bad thing you've ever said? That's what the left does with cancel culture.
To Nick Fuentes, who openly admits to being a racist. He did it again with me in the show. That anecdote to me was pertinent to why he may have shaped those views. What do you think? Was it unfair?
I think the anecdote was entirely fair and necessary, particularly since, the first part of the interview was very much about his biography. It was very much about what shaped him. He himself volunteered information, even in that interview, about his parents, about how they came together, about, the loss of their fathers, etc. All that to me is fair game. I agree that invoking his father's name in that moment was too far. I hear you saying if you could do it again, you wouldn't. Because I do have some ethical and moral reservations about doxing. I don't think it's wrong, for example, if someone does something awful in public and it's relevant to the public interest to track down their job and notify their job. But that's not the same thing as tracking down every private citizen just because we think they're racist or sexist or anti-Semitic or homophobic. I may think you're that thing, but you have a right to be that thing, even though I think it's awful. And I don't think you should live without safety because of that. Now, there's a bigger question, Piers, that you raised at the top of the interview, and it's come up again in the media, and that is, should you even be talking to this guy?
Right.
And I got to be honest with you, Piers, I've struggled with this.
We used to live in a society where it's like sticks and stones can break my bones, but words will never hurt me. And now we're debating if we should talk to the guy. I've actually wanted to tell this story, and I know it's gonna get clipped. All right. When I was in England, I dated a guy who was not in media. But because of that shit storm of when Nick Fuentes came on, I got dumped. I got dumped over having him on. Yeah, so you got to be careful, ladies. This channel is not. Be careful what you sign up for. This is, if you want to find love, I would not suggest being a YouTuber. Yeah, I know. I dated a soy boy. Well, I don't even think he was a soy boy. Now you guys are saying he was a reasonable guy. I know. I know, but I was just like, oh wow.
Interview controversial people. I sit down with people who people say don't platform them. And
you guys are saying you can't get dumped by a beta. Well, yeah, I didn't really blame him, to be honest, because I was like, you know what? This kind of is who wants to date a girl that's crying because her staff called her racist? Do you know what I mean? It's just like, who wants all that? I mean, I love this job, but it does not affect your personal life well. I'll tell you that much. And I was warned, right? I was reasonable. He was reasonable. And I was warned about this when I got into this industry. And there are pros to it. I will tell you, though, there are pros to it. So I'm not gonna like go through there's pros to dating as a public figure. But sometimes it's limiting to famous or other streamer people because they're the only ones that get it. And people not really in this world, they're either fans, which you don't really want to date a fan, or like they don't like the drama. Like, and that sometimes that's kind of on like your fault as the girl because you shouldn't bring it home. But yeah. I'll continue.
I take seriously your point that they already have a platform. And I'm not making them big. I'm not drawing attention to them. They already have the attention. They're just not being questioned or challenged on that platform. I concede that point. I agree with you fully. The problem with this guy, the problem with Nick Fuentes in particular, though, to me, is he's such a chameleon and he moves in such a way that I'm not sure holding him accountable matters to his base. And he does just enough to look moderate and normal and reasonable that I think he'll do.
I think Nick looks reasonable all the time. I don't understand. Like, I feel like there's a language that happy-go-lucky people speak that non-happy-go-lucky people don't speak. And I feel like me and Nick, we speak the same language. So I never really understood why everyone gets there in their panties in a bunch. Over him. I never got it.
He'll do more damage by sneaking some people from the middle and dragging them to his side because they think he's reasonable and only later find out that he's a sexist, misogynist, Hitler-loving Nazi, right? Or whatever he is, right? That's where the danger comes for me. I'm not saying we should interview controversial people. I'm just saying this particular guy, I feel like we're playing into his interests and his angle.
Yeah, well, Glenn Greenwald, welcome back to Uncensored. You've had Fuentes on your show. What's your view about that issue, about platforming him at all?
Oh, I didn't even consider it to be a difficult question at all. I mean, if you're going to have people on who are responsible for the invasion and destruction of Iraq based on lies, or the incineration of Vietnam, or the destruction of Gaza and the death of tens of thousands of people, and welcome them and treat them like respectable people, tell me what it is that Nick Fuentes has done remotely as bad as that justifies allowing them to come on and speak, but not him. And whether you like it or not, he does speak for a huge number of people in his generation and even other generations as well, who feel the same kind of anger and frustration with the status quo, with the establishment, with the kind of dogma that we've been told we have to accept. And there's a lot of people who are angry about it and who rebel against it. And we saw this with Donald Trump on maybe a little bit of a smaller scale, but very much the same pattern. When Donald Trump appeared, everybody was like, oh, he's racist and fascist and he's the misogynist and he's this and that. And no one wanted to grapple with the reason why his message was resonating so much. And to me, it is very similar to Nick Fuentes. Say what you want about him. He's extremely smart, an incredibly talented communicator, and very well read. Like, he's very informed. He's not just some sensationalist babbling on the internet. And I think the reason he has attracted a lot of attention is because he's speaking to the anger and frustration, a lot of which is valid, of a lot of people. And to stick your head in the sand and say, oh, we're going to pretend that this isn't happening because his views are too off, but the people who start wars or are responsible for the 2008 financial crisis,
I never understood how you can get so triggered over someone who just has an opinion. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's not like he's the guy dropping bombs or doing any of this stuff. He's just a guy with an opinion. Like, I think abortion is murder, like, genuinely in my soul, but I don't hate pro-choice people. I just think they have a different viewpoint and opinion.
Are respectable people who we treat with respect, like Joe Biden or Hillary Clinton or whoever. That to me is the kind of thing that I think is really distorted.
Yeah, Warren Smith. I'll respond to that. Well, no, let me bring in Warren Smith first, and then I'll come back to you, Mark. Warren, that really is my feeling about it. Is that you can let these guys like Fuentes and Andrew Tate run riot, and they do already, and they have massive followings, millions and millions of young men. I know, and when I interview Tate, the number of young men who just come up to me in the street to ask about it is off the charts, more than almost any other guest I ever have. So we can either pretend this phenomenon isn't happening, and Fuentes is a phenomenon, whether people like it or not. And I don't hate everything about him. There were elements of that interview where it was a genuinely quite interesting conversation. But there were elements which, either because he wanted to be performative and shocking and attention-seeking, whatever it may be, or because he really believes it, where I felt we saw a pretty dark underbelly of some of his beliefs. You know, I mean, just when somebody just says, I am a racist, and then explains, yeah, well, this is...
Yeah, it's a generational divide between Pierce and Gen Z. Gen Z, you can't shame them because they've watched boomer and millennial men get shamed. And they're kind of